3 minutes ago, Janie Raskin looked straight at FBI Director Kash Patel and said one word: arrest. The room froze. Cameras locked in, and right there, on camera, the color drained out of Patel's face. Not a stumble, not a pause, a complete shutdown. And this wasn't just any congressman talking. This was Jamie Raskin, Harvard Law graduate, 25-year constitutional law professor at Georgetown, the man who led Trump's second impeachment trial. One of the sharpest legal minds to ever walk into that chamber. And today, he didn't come to ask questions. He came with documents. Documents that could end Kash Patel's career and maybe, just maybe, pull Trump down with him. If you've been following this story and you're tired of watching powerful people walk away clean, stick with me right now. Because what happened in that room today is different. This isn't political noise. This is a paper trail pointing straight at federal crimes, obstruction of justice, destruction of evidence, lying to Congress. Raskin laid it all out, and by the end of this, you'll understand exactly why the word arrest wasn't just dramatic, it was a warning shot. But to understand where this is going, you need to understand how Patel got here in the first place. Raskin opened with something nobody expected: praise. Director Patel, we haven't had the chance to meet, and unfortunately you haven't responded to the 8 oversight letters I sent over the past 7 months. 8 letters. 7 months, not one reply. The FBI director straight up ignored Congress, and Raskin said it calmly, clearly, right to his face. Then he said, I want to start with a compliment. The room didn't know what to do with that. Raskin pointed to J. Edgar Hoover, the very first FBI director, a man who refused to hire women, black Americans, or minorities as agents. The man who ran secret anti-gay campaigns while privately living with his male partner for decades. Hoover was everything wrong with that institution. And then Raskin said Hoover would be rolling in his grave right now, because sitting in his chair is a first-generation Indian American and a proud Hindu. I congratulate you for that breakthrough. One breath, then the knife. Unfortunately, you share J. Edgar Hoover's most dangerous trait: choosing blind loyalty over professionalism. Clean, precise, devastating. But that was just a warm-up, because Raskin wasn't done with qualifications. For Hoover, it was blind loyalty to protect his own secrets. For you, it's blind loyalty to Donald Trump and protecting his. And then Raskin made it plain. Patel had 0 FBI experience. None. But he had made over 1,000 media appearances defending Trump, over 1,000 times on television pushing Trump's agenda before he ever set foot inside FBI headquarters. His Senate confirmation passed 51-49, the closest vote in history. Critics on both sides said he wasn't qualified. Raskin looked at Patel and said those critics were right. Then came the children's books. Yes, the FBI director wrote children's books. Raskin read them out loud. In that hearing room, and the crowd could not believe what they were hearing, Patel wrote a trilogy of picture books for kids aged 5 and up. The main character, Kash the Knight, a strange, easily bored wizard who takes revenge by banishing enemies from the kingdom. The villain in the first book, Hillary Queentown. In the second, the mules who stole the 2020 election from Big King Donald and gave it to Sleepy Joe. In the third, a jalapeno dragon representing the Department of Justice. And Kash, of course, defeats him. The FBI director cast himself as a fairy tale knight. He cast the DOJ as a dragon. And he called the President of the United States King Donald. Raskin's voice went cold. Your supporters had hoped you would move past imagining yourself as a romantic knight and actually lead America's top law enforcement agency. But just like we learned how dangerous it is to put a science-denying anti-vaxxer in charge of public health, we've now learned what happens when you hand the FBI to someone who fantasizes about slaying dragons for his king. Now here's where it gets serious. And I mean really serious. When Charlie Kirk was assassinated, killer still on the loose, full manhunt underway, where was the FBI director? Dining in an upscale Manhattan restaurant. And while he was eating, he was tweeting. He posted that the shooter was already in custody. It was false. He had to delete it an hour later. The MAGA base was furious. Even Christopher Rufo, one of the loudest conservative voices in the country, publicly called for Patel to be fired. But here's the part that should make your blood run cold. Weeks before that assassination, a Salt Lake City counterterrorism expert was fired. Someone whose entire job was to track exactly this kind of threat. Gone. before the killing, and nobody in the FBI's leadership said a word about it. Now, let me ask you something. Drop it in the comments right now. Do you think Kash Patel is actually running the FBI? Or is he just protecting one person? Because what Raskin revealed next makes the answer pretty clear. Raskin turned to the Epstein files, and this is where everything connects. We now know exactly why you want a politically loyal FBI. You want an agency that answers to Trump, with you as his enforcer, to keep covering up an international sex trafficking ring with over 1,000 victims. Before Patel took the job, he was loud about Epstein transparency. He went on podcasts. He told Benny Johnson the only reason the list wasn't public was because of who was on it. He made a promise. No cover-up, no missing documents, no stone left unturned. Then he got the job. And here's what actually happened. Patel ordered hundreds of FBI agents to go through every single Epstein file. Not to find traffickers, not to follow money, not to protect victims. Their one job was to find every mention of Donald Trump, every email, every photo, every letter, every video, and redact it, erase it, make it disappear. These agents were pulled off counterterrorism, pulled off drug cases. Some of them worked through the night, sleeping at their desks, not chasing criminals, erasing a name. In May, Attorney General Bondi told Trump his name appeared throughout the Epstein files many times. By July, Patel issued a memo saying further disclosure was not appropriate. The man who promised no cover-up was now running the cover-up. Raskin asked the question that needed to be asked: how did you go from transparency crusader to chief cover-up artist in just a few months? The answer was obvious, because of who was on that list. Then, Raskin held something up for the room to see. A birthday note, written by Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein, handwritten directly on a drawing of a woman's naked body, referencing what Trump called a great secret. The Oversight Committee got that note from Epstein's estate, not from the FBI. The FBI never handed it over because Patel's team was sitting on it, hiding it because Trump's name was on it. And then Raskin did something that made the whole room go quiet. He read the list of the dead. Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband, murdered. Democratic State Senator John Hoffman and his wife, shot 17 times. They survived, barely. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's home, burned down. Charlie Kirk, shot and killed in Utah. A 16-year-old in Evergreen, Colorado, radicalized online, opened fire at a high school 1 minute after Kirk was shot, 2 students seriously injured. 2 young Israeli embassy employees killed blocks from the Capitol. 2 children killed and 18 injured at a Catholic school attack in Minneapolis. A man fired over 500 rounds at the CDC, killing a police officer, a Marine veteran, and a father. All of this in 9 months. And what was the FBI focused on? Erasing Donald Trump's name from the Epstein files. Let that land. Raskin's closing hit like a hammer. The position of FBI director demands a leader who puts public safety, national security, and the rule of law first. I'm afraid, Director Patel, that you have used the powers of this agency to serve Donald Trump's personal revenge agenda. You broke your promise. You betrayed over 1,000 victims of Jeffrey Epstein. You turned your back on career law enforcement officers. And because of that, you have left every single one of us less safe than before. He looked straight at Patel. Patel said nothing. He sat there. He listened. And he had no answer. Let's be clear about what Raskin actually built in that room. Patel has 0 FBI experience and wrote children's books calling Trump a king and casting himself as the king's loyal knight. Brian Driscoll testified on record that Patel said his job depended on firing agents who worked cases against the president. Hundreds of agents were pulled from terrorism cases to erase Trump's name around the clock. A counterterrorism expert in Salt Lake City was fired weeks before Charlie Kirk was killed. And the Trump-Epstein birthday note was hidden by the FBI, recovered only because Congress went directly to Epstein's estate. Obstruction of justice, evidence destruction, concealment of federal records, lying to Congress through 8 months of silence. These are not opinions. These are federal crimes. Raskin didn't say Trump is next. He didn't have to. He said because of who is on that list. He showed the note. He laid out the cover-up, and he made clear that if Patel falls for this, and the evidence says he should, the person standing right behind him is not hard to identify. This story is not wrapping up. It is just getting started. Kennedy asked if he'd live to see it. Massey read 47 names out loud. Lou played the audio. Goldman brought the victims into the room. Johnson put it to 500 lawyers. Moskowitz locked in a promise of investigation. And now Raskin has drawn the map that leads to an arrest. If you believe accountability still means something in this country, share this right now. Not for the algorithm, not for the numbers, because people around you need to see what happened in that room today. The truth is moving, slowly, but it cannot be stopped. Patel sat in silence, and Raskin's words are still echoing. You left all of us less secure than before.